Who governs the US? Who has been governing the US? Who will govern the US? That is what I'm going to talk about today. Now, 2 days ago, we were told that President Biden had COVID. And I thought, oh my God, who coughed on him? But then I thought, oh, okay, what is going to happen? Something is happening. And sure enough, yesterday we hear that he's no longer the candidate for the presidency of the United States. It is not a surprise to anyone. We knew that this had to happen somehow, but the question is, why now? Why yesterday? Why not before the primaries? Why now? And you may say, well, it has to be sometime, so no, but the chronology of events is important here. It's interesting. On July the 13th, something happened. Or something didn't happen. 5 days later, July 18th, President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, everybody said about President Biden continuing to run, no, enough. Yesterday, Sunday the 21st, he announces that he will not be running. Not a surprise because we all saw it coming in one way or another, but in any case, we had Mrs. Newland, Victoria Newland, a while back said that there could be a surprise for Trump, something along those terms. Okay. They knew that they knew that he wasn't well. They knew that from the very beginning, as most of us did. So we saw this even in the 2020 election. Even in the debates of the 2020 election, we saw that he wasn't well. He was mumbling many times, so people said, no, that's because he's always suffered from a stutter that he has. No. He might have had stutter, if he says so, when he was a child. But we saw him for 50 years in the Senate. And although he wasn't very bright, and he would, his speech was, he never stuttered. We remember him as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and my goodness, he could debate. He could certainly go for his opponent and put him down very, very effectively. This is, I told you in the previous video, I remember him during the nomination of Justice Clarence Thomas. Okay, and that is when he was still bald. He used to be completely bald on top, and he had hair around like a Franciscan monk, just sort of around, but on top he was completely bald. You can see the old videos. Okay, he didn't stutter then. Okay, so it was obvious to everyone who had seen him for a number of years that he wasn't well in 2020. But they chose him to be the candidate because Bernie Sanders wasn't going in an old lefty kind of, no. Okay, so Biden will have to do the best we can with him. And he could also be manipulated, but not too much. He would be on their side. He had been on their side for 50 years. He was one of them, at least in the sense that he could do their bidding. He wasn't well because from the very beginning, you remember when he was going up the plane, the stairs, and he fell down 3 times. Remember the other time very early on when there was a gathering at the White House and there was a dinner or a banquet or something, and President Obama came in and everyone was around him talking to him. He was the star of the label of the ball. And President Biden was going around like this, not talking to him. No one was talking to him. No one even was looking at him. Wasn't that obvious? So very many things, okay, that we can pinpoint to the fact that this man hasn't been well. Not long ago, he referred to the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, as the black man. The black man. He's not well. He wasn't well for a long time. And suddenly I found myself surprised that everyone was saying, oh my God, the debate of June the 27th. Oh, everyone suddenly realized that he wasn't well. I was surprised at that reaction because I didn't think he did that badly, actually. At least he could talk for a while. Okay, he had those moments when he was staring like this, but I thought the debate in 2020 was just as bad. But everyone was so terribly surprised about the worst performance. I don't think it was the worst. I mean, what when heads of state, prime ministers, presidents come and they sit down with him and then he falls asleep? Listen, no one really thought that this gentleman could really be running the country. So anyone thought that he was the one running the country, governing the country? Of course not. Because the people who are running the country, he's there because they wanted him there. So who is governing the country then at the moment? The same ones who have been running the country for these last 4 years. Now the question is, who will govern the country? Now the future is a little bit more difficult to predict, or perhaps not. Look, they might accept that things are so bad at the moment that they're not going to win against Trump. That is a possibility. I'm sure they are considering it. And they might say, well, okay, we know we are not going to win. Hence, it doesn't really matter if Kamala Harris now is the candidate. We put a candidate there who's going to burn this pur stuff. Would they mind if they don't win? I wouldn't be surprised if they are not surprised that they're not going to win. For the last 4 years, since 2020, they did what they wanted to do all along. The 2020 election was so important because what they have been doing for the last 4 years is what they wanted to do. Embark on the things that they have embarked on. Accomplish the things that they failed to accomplish, but that was their goal. NATO, Ukraine, Taiwan, this, that, the other, 1,000 things. That is what they wanted to do. In all of them, it seems as if they have failed. So, if things are not going well, I wouldn't be surprised if they say, well, okay, we will not win, but we'll regroup, we'll rethink, we'll replan, and in 4 years we'll be ready again. But perhaps not. Perhaps they do really want to win and continue on the course that they have embarked on. The thing is that Trump is now angry. He's probably very angry. Who knows? He might even have plans to go after them for a number of things. Start changing people around, all kinds of things. So in this case, they might feel that they have to win. So what is to be done now? So prepare for who knows what. Horrendous accusations again, that would be the list of it. But you see, I think the fight now is a different fight, it's a different battle. It's not obviously the same battle between the, oh, excuse me, I have something in my eye. Between the, you remember the old left with Democrats who were supposed to represent the workers, and the right who were the Republicans and they were supposed to represent business. That fight hasn't been like that for since the 90s. Okay, the Democrats stopped representing the workers in the 90s with Clinton, President Clinton, and they moved to represent the transnational elite global corporations. The Democrats abandoned the workers, and the workers started moving on since Reagan, before that, but moving on to the Republican Party. That's more or less the same that happened here in Britain with Blair. You remember the two friends, Clinton and Blair? He did the same thing here in Britain. The Labour Party, not so obviously at first, but started moving to the right. Clinton and Blair used to call it the third way. That is when they were moving, abandoning the traditional left, the workers, onto representing the globalist corporation. But that fight is over. That stopped a long time ago. The Democrats represent the corporate elite, and the Republicans are divided because some of them, a great number of them, but less and less, continue to want to represent business, who are already represented by the Democrats. And some of them represent the workers. So the Republican Party has this tension there, okay? But eventually they all moved to what we now call the uni-party. Both parties represent the global transnational corporate elite, and a little bit few in the Republican Party represent the workers. And that is how things stood until the year of our Lord 2016. And what happened then? The globalists were in power since the 2000s. President Bush, son, President Obama, 8 years. And now it was going to be Hillary Clinton for another 8 years, hopefully. Okay? So everything was going very well. Everything was going swimmingly towards the Agenda 2030, of which we learned in 2019 or whatever it was. The only problem is that there were still these stupid people around who believed in the nation state and sovereignty. So that had to be diminished, that had to be broken up. Okay, so hence we had the woke thing in order to break the social cohesion of the country. So then you have the race thing and the BLM and the gender and the men and the women and the women and the men and who knows what, everything to break that cohesion. And it was very powerful. You remember the pronouns, oh my God, 2 or 3 years ago? What happened here is that Trump won in 2016, and that wasn't supposed to happen. It was like everything was going so well, and then it was like a spanner in the works. Not that he was aware of it. He didn't know exactly who his enemies really were. But they knew that he was that danger because he represented that going back to the sovereignty and the workers of the country and let's put our workers first and all that and that, although he didn't realize the extent to which it was affecting their objective, they knew. And so this was dangerous. He didn't change anything. It would have taken much longer than 4 years in any case. But he wasn't fully aware of the extent to which he was a danger to their objectives. So he couldn't understand why everyone was hating him. Well, all I want is to bring, the old companies to come back to the country, so as to give. He didn't quite understand what was going on. I think he does now. Okay. So, for example, with China, he was the one who started. Everything was going well up to that point with China, but he started saying it's not fair. I believe in free trade, but it has to be fair trade. You remember that? This is back in. He was actually saying this in the 1980s. But in any case, as president, he was saying, look, it's just not fair that they impose tariffs on our goods to them, very high tariffs, but they can sell to our country with no tariffs at all. So of course the market is theirs. So no, I'm going to impose tariffs and so on. Okay, that was his thing. Okay, but what happened is that he was impeding he was making it more difficult for what they wanted to achieve. Everything had been going so well, and now workers and society was talking about it and becoming aware and being divided along these lines. And anyway, he couldn't win in 2020. It would be dangerous because eventually he would realize what the game was about. Eventually he would realize who his friends and his enemies were. Eventually he would have realized. Okay, so another 4 years, no, he cannot come to power again. And so he has to lose this election by whatever means he has to lose. And he lost. And then after he lost, to make sure that he wouldn't dream of coming back again, that awful man, they started the lawfare, as they say. Yeah, the impeachments, the trials, all that, for another 4 years. Surely he would give up. If you give up, everything will disappear, will go away. No, he wanted to do it again. Is this person mad? Is he insane? He cannot come to power again. See? But he decided to run again. Okay, so at the same time, after the virus and all that sort of thing, all the things that they had been doing in these last 4 years started to go wrong. The Ukraine thing started to go wrong. The China thing is not quite there. The Philippines apparently now are talking to China again. We're losing control. We're losing control of the situation, and we cannot lose control. Certainly, he cannot win again, because then we'll be done. But Trump is running again. Not only that, but it appears that he's going to win. And Biden is getting worse. This was the dilemma. We can no longer hide, how ill he is. And Trump is winning, it seems. But he must not win. So what is to be done? Okay, so failed. Now what? Let me tell you something. Back in 1975, something changed. I tell you what changed. The business school, I believe it was Harvard Business School, decided that business could no longer be run in the same way it had until then. What did they mean? And the students who graduated in 1975 actually formed at the time a society that 1975 was a break. And what was that about? Well, you see, up to then, business, if you worked for let's say a huge corporation like IBM, that was a job for life. It was the time when still you could survive, with one income, for example. Once you entered, you became an employee of IBM, for example, you were set for life, because the company would look after you too. Not only as an employee, you were sort of part of a family. And they would take your needs into considerations. And so the relationship was one of, if things were busy and you needed to go to work on Saturday, you did go. And if you were salaried, you were not going to receive um, overtime pay or anything else like that, but you owed it to the company. There was this relationship of, you know, everyone was looking after the best interests of the other. I don't want to romanticize or idealize the situation, but certainly the relationship between employer and employee was a much more sort of positive one. The class of 75 decided that that was an old-fashioned way. No, that was inefficient. If they didn't need you, if the company didn't need you, then they had no obligation to you just because you had 3 kids and a mortgage. That was not their concern. No, the moment they don't need you, they let you go out. But that old relationship that you would have practically a job for, no, we're in business to make money here. We don't need you anymore. Please leave. Bye. That changed completely, that relationship. Yeah. Now, then, so that the relationship between employer and employee changed. Then in the 1990s, as I said, the relationship between nation state and global governance changed, okay? It was no longer about you and your country. Yes, the fight went on to globalism, sovereignty, nation state. But now it's changing again, because these old globalists who have been there since the 1990s, eventually reaching the objective of the 2030 agenda, they're done. They lost. That doesn't mean that they will disappear tomorrow. They will be around for another 5-10 years, but Davos and all that, that's gone. They're beginning to look like dinosaurs, because there is a new breed of young billionaires like them, or multimillionaires, who are challenging their view of global governance. Now, and they're going to come back and look more to the nation state and to the people in those countries. Now, I don't want to even imply that they are Mother Teresa here, who are just going to come and look after the poor workers and nothing else. No. But the fight between the old globalist and the new, they're called now the new right, is very obvious. It has been going on since 2012, when people started writing and things, but it's becoming apparent now. And it's becoming apparent because one of their representatives is the one nominee to be Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. He is one of them. I will have to do another video on what this new right is and give you a little bit of history about it. But they are coming up with a new view of the world. They are not interested in going to war with Russia. They're not interested in going to war with China in the sense, oh, I mean a military war. They will look after business, but it's going to be done in a different way. They are updating it. And the old globalists who are still there, the neocons and the neolibs and all those, are beginning to look now like dinosaurs. They're done. More about the new right in my next video. Thank you very much. God bless.